We're in Hawaii.
What up, everybody? Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 10th anniversary of Iration's second full-length album, Time Bomb. Time Bomb was released on March 16th, 2010 on Law Records and has hits like Dream, Falling, Turn Around, Let Me Inside, and of course, Time Bomb. My name is Drake, and before we go behind the scenes on Time Bomb and ask some fan Q&A, we want to preface that this is our first live stream in the times of Corona. And since we haven't figured out how to perform or even get together remotely, we recommend fans play this album in the background to set the mood. So, but first we're going to check in with everybody. Poosh, how's quarantine life in SB with your mommy-to-be?
It's good. We're just getting ready for baby in 2 weeks. So I'm putting together strollers. I pulled a stroller out of the box yesterday, and I accidentally broke it, so I have to send it back and get a new one. So I was being pretty Mongo with it, and then just installing car seats and other things.
Are you a little bit scared about the baby? Or are you excited?
Well, actually, it's funny that just this morning we went to bed really late. We watched this show on Netflix last night till really late, and then we slept in. And I woke up with almost a panic, and I was like, "This is the last time I think that Chloe and I will be able to just sleep as long as we want together at the same time for I don't even know how long."
At least crazy. 18 years, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you got some big adventures ahead of you. What's up, Adam? How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Drake? Good to see you, bud.
Doing well. How's Haley? How's Haley and Rudy?
Haley's doing great. Rudy's doing great. We've been playing a lot of trumps, cooking, eating, binge watching Netflix. Shout out Joe Exotic.
Oh yeah, dude. Kaysen, you were incredibly smart, and you dipped out to Hawaii right after tour, right before everything got shut down. How is it over in Hawaii?
It's nice over here. I mean, other than the fact that everyone's in social isolation and quarantine, kind of just been doing some surfing and trying to just stay as healthy as possible, and it's been nice. It's lovely over here.
Is everyone social distancing in the water?
I mean, everyone pretty much already lives their lives social distancing on the Big Island, but it's kind of weird. There's no tourists over here, so it makes you realize how few people actually live here when there's no visitors here.
Jojo, you recently bought a house in Ventura. How are the first few weeks of homeowning treating you?
A lot of weed whacking. Not bad.
You really need a lawnmower, man.
Yeah, but weed whacker brings me back to the Big Island. Old school days.
And Micah Brown, you seem to be playing a lot of guitar 24/7. Are you gonna have a couple solo MB albums after this, or what?
Yeah, there's been a lot of guitar playing, a lot of dog walking. But yeah, I mean, I haven't really been doing a lot of writing, just a lot of just practicing and kind of keeping the chops up, if you will. But I think there's plenty of time ahead to keep writing. So for sure, it's always on the agenda anyways, regardless of a quarantine or not.
Very nice. All right, well, let's get into some of these discussions. So we have a couple questions that we've sourced, and then we also have a bunch of questions from the fans that we're going to get to later. But the first one is, Iration's been around for quite a while, and you guys have toured all over the world and played for a lot of people. Time Bomb is very significant in people's lives. For instance, Falling is people's wedding song. They dance to it. What does Time Bomb or a certain song on Time Bomb signify in each of your lives? Poosh, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I think Time Bomb signified for us kind of a jumping off point in our career where we kind of figured out who we were as a band at that point. And obviously we kind of put everything together into an album. We we went into the studio really having no idea what we were doing, and it was a lot of trial and error. But we knew we had some strong songs and some other, we had some things going for us. We had a sound that we thought was unique, and we had a vibe that we thought that nobody else was doing. And so I think for me, when I think about Time Bomb, I think about just kind of the beginning. Really, I kind of think of it as the actual start of what we kind of know Iration as now.
What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's funny looking at some of the videos. I was kind of going back, and someone shared a video of us. I live in Ventura with Joe down the street, and we recorded the album here in Ventura. And just watching old videos, it seems like a lifetime ago. I mean, it's 10 years old, and one thing that really stands out to me was just the process of, I remember a song like Turnaround, for example, like how many different beats we kind of had to get through before achieving the beat that we got on the record. And to me, it's still one of my favorite songs, like beat-wise, that we play, or even a track like Time Bomb. That didn't even come along until the very last day, I think, of recording. And I think we kind of hashed it out in a day, and it ended up being title track. And so that's pretty cool.
Wow. Kaysen?
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of figured out the best way to kind of write songs. Well, not the best way, but we got better at songwriting. And then, yeah, like Turnaround was one of our first songs that actually got on the radio in 91X in San Diego, and actually got some traction. And we kind of realized that, we could probably do this for a career, keep going and be successful at it. And so that was reassuring. But yeah, mainly just the songwriting. I'd say we worked with some songwriters prior to making the album, and kind of learned how to make a good song.
What about you, JoJo?
It was fun. I was kind of thinking about it the other day, and I think if I remember correctly, Time Bomb was, I think it was the last song we actually tracked for the album. Like, we waited till the last minute, and there was like I think it was the timbali roll in the beginning. Joe King was like, yeah, do this, and I couldn't figure it out. And like, I think we all gave up on the song, but we got it. It's that.
A timbali roll that you like to use all the time now that you've got that in the bank.
Hey, true, man.
What about you, MB? Obviously, you joined later, but is there anything that Time Bomb is it very special to you in any way?
Well, yeah, as many of you know, I was not even born yet when Time Bomb came out. But no, I do remember, I distinctly remember the first time I saw a poster for it, and it was at 17th Street. So I was already kind of I was in a recording studio at the same time as you guys, I think, working on solo stuff. And I was like good friends with the Seedless guys, and I think that they had a show or something opening for you guys. So they had posted an Iration Time Bomb like poster in 17th Street studio. And that was like the first time I'd heard about you guys. And so obviously checked it out and became a fan first before I even met you guys. But yeah, it was just, it was cool to see a young new band coming up, like getting so much kind of success. And it was something to strive for as a solo artist and as a new artist, seeing like a successful band like that doing well right out the gate kind of. So it was definitely an inspiration to listen to you guys. And now here we are 10 years later.
Let's go through some of the writing process of Time Bomb and the entire album. How long did it take to write all the tunes? And obviously you guys did it right up to the very last day of tracking. Like, how long did it take, and who was part of the team that made it all happen?
You want to start? Want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead, Poosh.
Yeah, it was. It took 2 years, I think, to write it. We started basically writing it in Hawaii with Charles Brotman, a guy named Charles Brotman, on the Big Island, who's kind of was one of our early mentors as far as songwriting goes. Kason, myself, Kai, his older brother Catlin, we were just there on time off together, and he offered. We knew him just from being in Waimea as a family friend, and he offered to kind of have us do his home studio and do like a writing session for about 2 weeks. And we basically just would go in every day in the afternoon, and then we'd try to write a song a day for like 2 weeks, and he would kind of walk us through the whole process. And we ended up writing kind of a lot of the like songs from Sample This EP, and then a bunch of the songs from Time Bomb during that session. And then when we got back to Santa Barbara, we kind of we tracked a bunch of songs. I think we tracked like Turnaround and Dream and some other ones. And then we took a break and went on tour for like months and months and months, and then came back. And we were tracking, by the way, this is all tracked at Castaway 7 Studios in Ventura with JP Hesser, who, when we started working with JP, was on the album before that for No Time for Rest. And we basically we were no idea what we were doing, and we were learning a lot together in the studio. And he was building the studio kind of at the same time that we were tracking. And it was like a long process. A lot of this, like songs like Time Bomb were written like entirely in the studio, where it was like, I came up with like a hook. I think I just came up with the hook, and then I didn't even want to put it on the album. I was like, it's not ready to be on the album. And Kai, who's in the band, was like, no, dude, this needs to be on the album. Like, it needs to be on the album just based on the hook. So I think we just laid it down a hook or something, and everybody just wrote their parts like to the song in the studio. I don't think we ever played it live. It was like just the song that was almost totally created in JP's studio. Like every single person wrote their part as the song went along. So it was pretty crazy, but it was a learning process for sure. I think I know there's a lot of nights where we were there from like 10 in the morning until like 4 in the morning straight, just messing with tones and trying new things and, doing all kinds of crazy shit.
Holy cow. Adam, do you have anything to add to that?
I guess just on the creation of Time Bomb as a song, I kind of remember that day too. And for me, it was pretty interesting writing the bass line to that. It's a 3-note bass line. And at first I kind of thought maybe it'd be a placeholder and we'd work later on it, but it kind of has become one of my favorite bass lines, and kind of like it was kind of an entryway into the style that I would make songs. And that was kind of, like you said, that's where I really feel like we've kind of figured out what sound we were going to do. And that's how we started to grow as a band.
Kason, you want to talk about some of your tones that you use on some of the songs?
Yeah. I remember it being a long process. We were a lot more nitpicky about tones, and just, we did less pre-production back then. So it was kind of like you would just go into the studio and kind of just, try to come up with stuff. We'd be in there till like 3 in the morning trying to do stuff. But I remember JP, our producer, had a buddy who was like this crazy like synth head guy, and we went over to his house, and he literally had a room that just had keyboards like all over, like stacked all over, like shelves of them. And we just got to just like, as much as we could carry, it was like just me and JP. So we walked out of there with like 6 different synthesizers, like some like polysynths, some like old school Junos, Dave Smith, like all these crazy like analog synthesizers basically.
Yeah, and then Case, I kind of remember you also like taking those and then running them through guitar effects pedals a lot too.
Yeah, it was, JP had a lot of patience for us back then. We would go through hours and hours of just the weirdest sounds until we could settle on something, and then Usually it was 3 a.m. and it'd be like, all right, this is the tone we're gonna go with.
We'd basically just go until JP completely lost his mind, and then he'd be like, "All right, we're done. I'm not doing this anymore." And he'd be like, "All right, we're going home."
Yeah.
Joe, what would you say the hardest part of this recording process was?
Probably playing drums. I mean, everything was so basic, so straightforward, but at the time it was like, challenging just because never, maybe that I'm recording anything in the studio and, me like having to write a part that's going to be recorded forever, So just, trying to do different things and with my ability at the time. So that was the challenging part, I think.
So obviously a lot has changed since the Time Bomb era when you guys were recording. Like back then you guys used to, play for bars that were empty. I've heard some of the stories, and you guys were showering with water bottles, and Poosh was eating like $5 footlongs 3 times a day for like months at a time.
Adam still showers with water bottles.
That is very true.
Yeah, and I cannot eat Subway. I will not eat Subway ever again.
Ever again.
Like I smell the bread and I'm like, I want to vomit.
We consumed 500 feet of Subway sandwiches.
Enough Subway to stretch across the U.S. and back again.
Well, so clearly there's no more Subway being eaten, and amphitheaters are being sold out, and Adam is being showered with pot, and the food, the fine dining is, and the good wine is flowing. So that's changed. But what about the process of writing this brand new record? What's changed? Do any of you guys want to chime in about that?
Yeah, I think it's changed in that I think working with King David, he's a little different in that we do more work before we actually go and record. So more pre-production, more focused on the beats rather than being so experimental and kind of going at it where time wasn't really a factor, where we could go in there and just, kind of experiment and do things. I think it's more now honing in the sound, honing in the tones, making the beats beforehand. And then I'm sure Micah and MB have some thoughts on top line stuff.
MB?
I think this album that we have done that's going to be coming out is my 3rd album that I've helped write and be a part of, and I think it's been a cool transformation to see where we start. Like even just as Hotting Up for me is the reference point, but I think this album was more focused. Last album we were more experimental, and it was like an eclectic mix of things, and it was kind of more like a playlist of all of our different influences. And this album, it was a little bit more focused in what we wanted to achieve. We had kind of a vibe, and we had a direction we wanted to go, and we really did a good job sticking with it. And I think it's cool too. Also, Time Bomb was kind of a high watermark for the band, and so always kind of not comparing everything to that, but like knowing like this potentially can be as influential on fans as something like Time Bomb was back then. Like I feel like this is a strong batch of songs, and there's something to be said about keeping it simple and less is more. And so sometimes that is in your mind when you're trying to come up with something. Like you don't want to overcomplicate things. It's just the simplicity and beauty of Time Bomb is definitely what makes it stand out and kind of stand the test of time. So it's a good thing to refer back to now, just thinking what the fans love then, but not trying to redo what you did already, still reinventing yourself and making it fresh, but taking the lessons you learned from the past and applying them.
What about you, Poosh?
Yeah, I think this album, Coastin', is what it's called. I think it's more of a journey. I think it takes you from song 1 to the end, and it's like a journey. It's like you put it on and you go on a trip, and it takes you to different places, and it takes you to different feelings and different emotions. And I think that's what really makes it special, is that it's cohesive and it all works together. I think that one of the cool things about this album was that we did a large majority of it as it was a very everybody was, you know, a part of the process. In that we sat in a room in different groups, and it was like a real proper writing session with everyone kind of giving their opinions and shouting out, you know, lyrics and coming up with different ideas and things as we went along. And I think that's what made this one even more feel like Iration. You know, I think the last album, it was like the last couple, we're still trying to figure out how we work with Dave, our producer, you know, MB, having MB join the band for Hotting Up. That was just writing with somebody new, and having a new art person in the band was, you know, we're still learning each other's, you know, what we do, what our strengths, what's our sound. The last album we added Drake, so we had horns, and adding the horns to the sound was another kind of step in a direction that changed the sound of, you know, some of the songs and what we do as a band. And then this album, I feel like is us kind of realizing all of that, and it's all kind of coming together, and we're confident, and we're you know, comfortable with what the sound is that we're creating. You know, and I think, you know, as far as the way that it's written, it just was a little bit more concise. You know, I think everybody is just better at what we're doing, and I think sometimes, like with Time Bomb, it was like we didn't know any better. So a lot of it plays as very simple and very, you know, stripped. And even though there's a shit ton of tracks and there's a ton of different sounds and things on it, it doesn't play that way. And I think that the messages and the songs are very simple and straightforward. Whereas, you know, it's the further along you get as a songwriter, I think the harder it gets to whittle it down and to be, you have to almost eliminate the things, all your information that you know, and say, like, I need to take what I know and kind of use what's right. It's like being a chef almost. You know, I've been watching a lot of Top Chef in quarantine, so it's like there's a lot of these chefs that they have all these skills and they have all these ingredients, and it's about doing what the best ingredients are for that particular song, and making it right for that with a clear, concise theme, idea, feeling, emotion, etc. So yeah, I think that's where we hit it. We hit it with this album with Coastin', and I think that's what shares a similarity to Time Bomb, is that Time Bomb was like more, we just didn't know, we were figuring it out as we went, and that was, but we were passionate about it. And this is kind of like us trying to return to that level of passion and simplicity and conciseness.
Very nice. So Time Bomb, going back to Time Bomb, there's a lot of tunes on it, a lot of really good ones. How did you guys go about picking out a track list? Because obviously, you know, Coastin', you guys have, it's a nice journey. Did Time Bomb have a journey at all, or was it just kind of like, was it random? Or it's Joe, what do you have? You're making faces. What do you have to say about that?
I'm not good at track lists at all. Try to stay out of that.
Were there some arguments, Joe? Do you remember some people in some heated battles?
I mean, maybe between management and a couple of the boys, but I mean,
the suits.
Opinions are opinions, but obviously we all want the best. We want the best product. Okay, so
Adam, how did Time Bomb go from almost being not on the album to being the title track?
I think it was just because once we heard it for the first time, everyone got really excited, and it was kind of like an aha moment. And when I look at the order of Time Bomb, Turnaround, Let Me Inside, I think at the time we thought of those as the strongest one, so we kind of put those at the top. And it's pretty interesting when I look at the track listing. I was just listening to Love Hate the other day, and just touching what Micah said earlier about how this new record's so concise. Like when I listened to Love Hate, we played it so much faster than we'd ever played it. And I was like, that's because we went into all these songs. We didn't have a BPM, a tempo like picked out already. We just went in and started like recording. And when I hear that, I'm just like, what were we thinking? It's so fast. Like even when we played live, we didn't play it that fast. But yeah, it's just interesting to see the way we approached both this newest album 10 years before as younger artists as we approach this one. So pretty interesting.
Kason, were there any songs that you think should have been on the chopping block? or that actually were on the chopping block at one point?
I mean, you're talking about track listing. I'm surprised we even ever finished any of these songs because it was like, I mean, I remember Turnaround was like a #1 hit on 91X, and Kai was still wanting to like go back and like re-record it and like change the entire like rhythm of it. We're just like, dude, like, yeah, at what point do you just gotta like stop and be like, okay, like this is what it is. It's a piece of art. Like, put it out there and let people digest it. Everyone's gonna have a different take on it. You know, people are gonna like it. People are gonna not like it. It's just
Speaking of Kai, how is Kai doing?
Kai's doing well. He was a big part of the writing process, you know, so he deserves a lot of credit for, you know, Turnaround was kind of his song in the beginning, and it was a different type of song. If you listen to the way we did it on Double Up, the acoustic album, that's actually closer to kind of the way that he initially saw the song. But what it was he had the hook, and then it didn't really make sense as a song. Like he had a hook, and the verse that he had didn't really tie in together. So he and I think what my kind of impression was that when he and I got together with that song, he really thought it was strong, and I was like, I agree, this is a strong hook, but it doesn't make sense with the verse. So we like kind of made the verse make sense with the hook so that it tied in together and they worked together. And I mean, people forget, but it's just a repeat of the first verse on the second verse. There's not really a second verse, and it's one of the few songs that, you know, had a lot of success, and it's just a repeat second verse. You know, it's sung slightly differently, so it's like maybe a slightly different top line, a slightly different delivery, but it's basically the same thing. And then I cut a guitar solo, and we like guitar solos for us were kind of a thing that we did a lot of, and now like obviously we don't do as many of them, just because guitar solos in general, I don't know, they tend to get a little bit old and passe in music in general, but it's like it kind of signifies a different time in music. But like that song had like basically broke a lot of rules of how successful songs should be, you know, repeat second verse, there's a guitar solo. But yeah, it did come together very, very well. And that was a song that we recorded it early, and then we sat on it for a long time, and it came back like 2 years later, and I think we finished it right at the end. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's any songs that we would necessarily cut. I think that's just all the songs that we recorded. That's how we were in the early days. Is like whatever we could get recorded and get finished is what would probably end up on the record. I don't think it was like, let's do 20 songs and cut it back like we're doing now, you know?
Do you guys ever see Kai anymore at all?
Yeah. Yeah, he's on our fantasy football stream. So we talk every day. I think when we go back to Hawaii, I see him. He's living in Hawaii, so yeah, we're still good friends, and we still talk to each other pretty much daily. So
I saw him at the Niners Green Bay game in November, the Monday night game. That was pretty fun.
Very
yeah,
nice.
he's a huge Packers fan.
What about Joe King? Joe King was a big part of the band, obviously from the beginning. Can you guys talk about what King did and what he's up to now? Kason, you want to touch?
Yeah, Joe King. Well, at that point he was running our sound, but in the beginning of the band, Joe King was a percussion player before we asked him to take over as a sound engineer. And so we actually had him lay down pretty much all of the percussion on Time Bomb. And he's super good. He's very locked in. Like he's a phenomenal musician. And he also has a very good like sense of knowing when to kind of put an end to things, I would say, you know, like we would be kind of going down wormholes with, you know, tones and stuff. And he was always the person that would be like, okay, guys, let's settle on something here. Let's lock it in, you know?
Yeah.
And,
he was really good at also just mixing the album and, you know, using his space echo and kind of like doing dubby stuff without being too overt or in your face. So he was a big part of shaping that whole sound. You know, him and JP basically just together were responsible for a lot of the, not just the tones, but the way it sounds on the record. So that, yeah, King was a huge part of it.
Yeah, I feel like he was kind of like a voice of reason, like a calming presence. And I think it's kind of cool and unique that he was, you know, a band member, but he was also part of the crew. Like coming in later on and seeing how King's dynamic was with the band and management and the crew, he was kind of like that middleman that like made sure everything worked smoothly together. And it was always kind of cool to see how his role really solidified things, you know.
I think King was, without him, we would not have been successful. Like we wouldn't have got to where we are now, because in the early days, yeah, he was the percussion player. And then we actually, the story is that we played a show at the Expendables at Slow Brew. And they had Donovan, and they had like this whole intro with like a song. And then he was doing all these crazy dub effects from the front of the house. And we were watching them after we opened, and they were like, so the show was just so much better because they had their own sound engineer. We were using house engineers every night. And when you have a house engineer, you just never know what the dynamic's going to be, if they're going to be kind of a dick, or they're going to be nice, or they're going to be open to you, or they're just going to, you know, put the faders in a spot and then walk away and go have a drink or whatever. So we kind of realized after that, we're like, you know what, we really need a front of house engineer. Unfortunately, like at that point, the percussion was like the one thing that we're like, you know, we could either have a live percussion player or we could have a front of house engineer. And we kind of asked him to do it. And he was like, obviously that's a tough thing to be like, you're not gonna be like, would you mind doing this instead of being on stage? And he was like, I'll do it because I know that it's right, what's best for the band. So he did it, and he learned the craft, and he got really, really good at it. And now he's the front of house engineer for Revolution and The Green, and he was our front of house engineer for the whole meat of our, you know, career, you know, in the early stages. And he also, like MB said, was like the guy that did a lot of this production managing. He put a lot of things together. He was kind of the guy that was a voice of like fiscal reasoning when we didn't really have any clue what we were doing fiscally. You know, he would be like, he was the guy that was like, guys, think about the numbers here. You know, we wanted to do things that maybe didn't make sense fiscally. And he was a guy that was kind of the brains of that side of the whole operation. So yeah, I mean, without Joe King in the early stages of our career, there's no way that we probably make it all the way through. So, you know, people don't realize, but like that, all that stuff is very important to the success of a band and the health of a band. It's not just being good musicians and having songs and doing, you know, having good albums and stuff like that. It all is a living, breathing organism, you know, the management, the agents, the lawyers, even. So, you know, it all matters.
The trumpet players.
Yeah.
Nah. What was a regular day during the Time Bomb era, other than probably not having the best fashion and like bull haircuts? I've seen the pictures. Like, what was like a regular day? Adam, you want to start?
What are you talking
about? So I'd usually, we all lived in one house. I'd wake up, I'd look over to my left, I'd say, "Good morning, Micah. How are you?"
Because you guys were in the same room together.
At first, but then we moved. But yeah, we all lived together.
I like to watch and
you'd
sleep.
Pop into the garage and then wake me up.
Yeah. I'd make Joe D some eggs, you know, put the coffee on.
Oh my god!
Ask Joe D, because Joe D and I definitely had like a routine every day when we lived together.
Well, King and I lived in the same room, and we had bunk beds, so that we'd switch off like half a year. We'd flip flop. That was one.
How did Joe King fit in a bunk bed? This guy's massive.
Hang way off the end.
But some of those times too, when like everything was set up in Kaysen's room, you know, like the instruments, we were jamming every day, getting creative, like honing your chops. And Do you guys remember what tour it was? Was it during while we were kind of writing Time Bomb album that we went out? Because we were gone for a big portion before we came back and finished it.
Yeah, we did. I think there was at one point when we went out with Expendables, I think we did like two tours in a row where we were gone for, I think it was at least 2 months straight. It was like almost 3 months straight.
Winter Blackout Tour, is that the one it was?
Yeah, and we did something like right before it. I think we maybe went out like, and we didn't actually come home. I think we went to Hawaii or something, and then we came back and we went to Hawaii right after tour. We did like a Hawaii run. We didn't come home for like almost 3 months, and when we came home, this is a funny story. We came home and we're like, we walk in the door and we're like, what are these like black pellets on our beds? Like, why does everybody have like a black pellet on the bed? And we like start looking around and we're like, wait a second, this is rat shit. And there was a rat that had made it home underneath our refrigerator. And we were like, oh, we didn't realize it though. So Jody and I would always like go to Trader Joe's. We'd wake up in the morning, we'd watch like DVR like food television, make breakfast. We went to the Trader Joe's and got some stuff, and Joe threw like a burrito or something in the oven, turned it on, and the whole house, it was kind of disgusting, but the whole house reeked like burning urine. It was disgusting. And like, we all were like ready to vomit. and then we located the rat. It was living under our fridge because it was like winter. The only thing that was warm in the house was the motor of the fridge that was running nonstop. So the rat had built a nest under our fridge, and we had to like caveman chase it around the house with brooms and murdered it. And it was like, we had to, yeah, it was kind of sad. I mean, honestly, we had to. It was like
the adrenaline was pulsing at that point.
Yeah, we screamed like Cro-Magnon men. We're just like,
Do you guys miss all living in that house together? I mean, I know obviously on bus life everyone's together, but do you guys miss
No.
No, I'm never going back.
No, when we moved out of that house, I still remember it. It was pretty funny. Like, we had a pile of like garbage in the backyard, and it was like, oh man, it was a joke. Like, well, it was I mean, awesome. There were great times there, but it was, yeah, we grew out of it eventually.
It was before we had like a storage unit, so there were always cables and musical equipment all over the place, like boxes of merch just stashed in a corner, just basically just flying off the seat of your pants. And we had our desktop computer set up in the middle of the room, and that's where I'd like run the MySpace with the boys, and like that's kind of how we were getting gigs. And like, I don't know, it's really funny.
Now a serious question. I'm gonna ask this to Push. What do you say to the fans who hear the newer music and say Iration hasn't been the same since Time Bomb?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that feeling. I mean, we were a different band at that point. We had a different lineup. We had a different sound, and that was we were honestly, it was recorded in 2000. It was put out in 2010, but it was recorded in like 2008 and 2009. We were in our 20s. We were young. We were like living a totally different life. And I think with Iration, we've always said from the beginning that we like want to always progress. We want to evolve, and we want to do different things. We don't want to always just keep repeating the same sound over and over again. I understand that feeling that people get, because artists that I love, they change their sound up, and I'm like, I just want it to go back to that album that I loved, the first album that I discovered. It happens all the time. So I get it, but it's like, at the same time, you have to look at it from the perspective of, we have to go out every year and play these songs hundreds and hundreds of times. And we want to be stimulated. We want to be artistically stimulated. We want to be mentally stimulated. We want it to be fun when we go out and play music. And we want to also evolve as artists and songwriters and musicians. And, we get better. We've gotten better at all of the skills of being musicians. We've gotten better as players. We've gotten better as writers. We've grown up, we've become adults. So it's like, you just can't be playing Get Back to Me when you're, married and have with a baby on the way, it just doesn't work the same way. Like those songs don't really hold the same meaning. You know what I mean? So I understand when people have the nostalgic feelings towards certain songs and towards the album, and of course we understand that. Like we still play a lot of the songs from Time Bomb, but you know, when you get we've made 4 other albums since then, full-length albums, and it's, you know, we eventually you have to kind of do different things and try new things, and I think that's right now with Coast, and I think we've really returned to the feeling and like the ability to attach to music in the same way. And I think that's more important ultimately than kind of sticking with one sound.
Yeah, and I think that songs have a certain attachment to people with a certain place in their own life too. Like you remember where you are, or like a feeling about a certain song, where you were, or what you were doing in life when you heard that song, and that's always going to carry through. And so you can't expect even your own self to have a similar feeling about another song when you're like 5 years later. You're in a different situation. So it's also that too. I think just not only evolving as a band, but as fans evolve, and they're in a different place when they hear music, and it means something different to them then too, you know. So
totally.
Sorry, I was muted. Let's talk about what these songs mean to you guys. Essentially, what's your favorite song to listen to on the album? Let's start with Joe.
Well, hold on a second.
He doesn't remember the songs.
Can you hold songs, Joe?
Can you hold that up so we can read it?
I can recite you with how the songs go in order anymore.
Honestly, I really like playing Turnaround. It's super fun. Every tour we kind of change it a little bit, like the intro or the outro or some part of it, and it just keeps it fresh. It's kind of got an upbeat tempo, which I like, which is a little bit different from the normal 16th beat, my signature drum beat that I play on every song. I really like that.
MB?
Yeah.
What's your favorite song to listen to off of Time Bomb?
I probably still haven't listened to every song on Time Bomb.
What?
I've actually, you know, it's funny. I've heard Iration songs like in a bar or something, and been like, "Who's that?" And then like, and I'm like, "Holy shit, that's Kai singing." Okay, this is an Iration song. Like, no joke. But, I think with Turnaround too, what Joe was saying, I think the groove of that is really cool. And then also having had the chance to re-record it acoustically, like that was a fun kind of flip for us. Like taking that same pocket, but taking out like the faster chanks and making it more of like like it's still the same kind of tempo, but it's a different groove on the acoustic version. And so yeah, I like Turnaround as well too. I like Dream a lot. That's a really beautiful song. Those are probably
that's my favorite too. Kason, what about you, man?
I like Let Me Inside. That one kind of came around as kind of a dark horse on the album, I'd say. The synthesizer, the synth line on it was kind of a last minute addition that was
sounds good,
kind of cool. Yeah, kind of a cool like hooky synth line. So
yeah,
that one
became the hook.
Yeah, and Turnaround too. I like Turnaround because we use that old school like poly synth on it that almost was like a little bit out of tune, but it made for like a cool vibe, and it's fun to play live. So
what about you, Adam?
Definitely Dream. I really liked kind of writing the bass line for that one. It's really fun to play too. And I really liked You Don't Know featuring Tunji. That's Micah's buddy. And that was just cool because was it our first time having a feature? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And it was a full like hip hop style.
Mikey Dread was the first feature.
Okay, there you go. But you're just having like hip hop with our music. It just was something we'd never kind of delved into. And so that was really cool. And then Changed My Mind too. I always liked that one to play live. It just, with the guitars, with the bass and everything, it just was a really cool groove. And I think it translated well from the album to live.
I wanted to ask you real fast about the outro on Dream, that bass line. Is that something that you came up with, or was that like a riff that
I can't remember if it was bass or chords first, but yeah, I love the way that stops with the like something like that's it was fun, and plus it went from just the chord change to the like B minor, just like added a whole different kind of cool way to end it.
What about you, Poosh? What's your favorite track on Time Bomb?
Just to follow up on Adam's top saying that, Tunji Balagun is a buddy from mine from college that was a rapper, and now he's like the most successful A&R / label guy in the music industry. He's like A&R artists like Kendrick Lamar and SZA, Khalid, and Normani, and all these acts that are just like, he's got all his whole roster is just getting Grammys every year now. So it's pretty funny to have that he's on the record, and it's like I'll text him now and again and just be like remind him of him, because he came into the studio and recorded it with, it was he brought, I think his future wife was there with him, and me and my future wife Chloe were there. So it was like funny just to have that connection too. And then, but I would say my favorite song probably on the record is Time Bomb, just because I think when it's all said and done, it's the title track. It's probably going to be the song that one of the songs that we're most remembered for at the end, in our career. It's just a song that we wrote that was partially inspired by our friend Corey, who is like a 6-foot redheaded. We went to high school with her. I grew up with her, but we all grew up together. She just liked to party. We liked to party in our day, in our heyday, and it was like kind of a song. At the time, it was all these party anthems, hip hop anthems, and I was like, why aren't there any party anthems that are like bigging up girls, instead of saying like, oh, the guy, like guys, we're, oh, let's get some like hoes in the party, blah blah blah, and it was like just all these like kind of stock disrespectful hip hop songs, and I was like, why aren't there any songs that are more bigging up girls that can party too, and make it like a kind of party girl anthem? And that was kind of the impetus behind doing the song. So yeah, I think Time Bomb for me, I'm glad we did it, because there's a lot of girls out there that are time bombs and are proud of it, and I think that they should be. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, this is a perfect segue going on to our fan questions, because the first two questions are this guy Tremendo from IG asked who was the original Time Bomb. So you obviously answered that. That was Corey. And then the second question was Shredular Dystrophy on Instagram wanted to know if Corey gets a decade royalty check.
She gets free access to any show that she wants to come to in San Diego. And
we each buy her one drink annually.
So she cashes in on those royalties too.
Yeah. So we have a few other fan questions. So I'm gonna just start. We'll start with Joe, and then if someone doesn't want to answer this question, just say pass, and it'll go. We'll go MB, Kason, Adam, Micah, etc. Bill on Facebook says, who are your current Hawaiian singers that you are listening to? Joe, you want to start?
Current Hawaiian singers, wow.
And if you don't want one, you can always just say pass. Go on to the next person.
Local Jordy, I like some of his stuff. Any one of the boys in the green, those guys have the sweetest voices that I've ever heard.
The green. All right, next question from Grizzly6940. This one can go to MB. What are your thoughts on doing a live album?
I'd love to. I think that's definitely something that we are striving to do one day. I think with this next album, we'll have quite the catalog to choose from, and hopefully over the next, once we're back on the road, whenever that may be, I think it would be cool to be able to span this last decade of music and put together a cool live playlist. And we've already talked about it. It's something that we want to do. I think it'd be fun grab different songs from different shows and be able to, you know, feature different cities on an album instead of having it just be from one show. It'd be kind of cool to just mentally note like, oh, that version of that from Wisconsin was really good, or that, you know, that time we played this song in Oregon was like super cool. And I think that's something that we definitely want to do. I don't know when it will happen, but it's in the works.
Georgia Kalivas on Facebook says, is there anything you would change about the album? Kason?
About Time Bomb?
Yes.
No, I'm pretty satisfied with the way it is, but you know, it's a piece of art, so I'm sure we all listen back to it and go, man, I could have played that way better, or you know, we could have written that part much better, but it is what it is, and I mean, I enjoy it for what it is.
Sir Ferg on Instagram asks, what bands inspired you to start Iration? And what bands inspired this album? Adam?
Bands, I think obviously Pepper would be probably number one, because it was the first time we'd really been introduced to kind of this scene and live music like that. And I remember in Isla Vista, where we were going to college, I remember watching a band called Fuzzy Logic, and they covered Roller Skates by Steel Pulse. And that was the first time I even realized, wait, you can play another band's music. And that kind of introduced a whole nother thing. But yeah, bands, I'd say like old Jamaican bands like Steel Pulse, Black Uhuru, Don Carlos were the bands that kind of inspired a lot of us to want to jam.
Next one is from C Schaff number 9 on Instagram. Poosh, why doesn't Coming Your Way get played more live? Song is straight fire.
That's funny. It's probably just because it was a Kai vocal. I mean, live, it never, for some reason, it never really got to where we wanted it to sound like live. I don't know why that was. I think it's some of the guitar tones we used, they were like they were so specific and so crazy that the way that it melded with the rest of the song, it just never was really hard to recreate the energy of that song live. I think that's probably just why. I mean, the combination of that and it being a Kai song, and when he left the band, it was like before Automatic, it was just like, well, you know, we have there's a lot of songs to play. Most of the time we weren't playing headline sets. Like we were playing 45 minutes, half an hour. And it was like, you have to really be choosy with what you play. You know, you only get like 6 or 7 songs, and it's like, you're going to have to play. At that point, we're playing, you know, I'm With You, Electricity, Falling, Time Bomb. That's already, you know, 4 songs, Dream. And like, you know, so by the time you get to the end of it, you're kind of like, well, you know, what's left here, you know? Unfortunately, Coming Your Way was one that usually got pushed.
Maybe it's time to bring it back. So this next one is for everybody. If you weren't doing music right now, and if Time Bomb didn't hit, what would you all have pursued? This is from BT Sozi on Instagram. Joe, you want to start?
Sorry, I'm muted. Honestly, I'd probably live in Kona on the Big Island, and I'd be doing farming, assorted farming, coffee, macadamia nuts, have a coffee shop, simple life.
MB?
I mean, I would probably still be playing music somehow, but I think if music was out of the question, I think what I wanted to do before that and what I studied in college a little bit was journalism. And so I would probably be trying to pursue some sort of career in journalism, whether it be writing or whatever that would look like now. I don't know, but
You'd have a podcast.
Maybe a podcast. Yeah. But journalism of some sort is what I would have wanted to do before music kind of took off for me.
Kason?
Probably be doing something in the restaurant business, because it's kind of just the family business. My dad started restaurants, was a chef. My oldest brother's a chef. I'm pretty passionate about cooking. I would have maybe wanted to try to be a surfer, but it's hard to be good enough to do that. So yeah, probably restaurant.
What about you, Adam?
I'd be stoked. I mean, if I couldn't be in something like a booking agency or management side of music, which I am also very interested in, I'd probably do something sales related, like real estate or something like that. Maybe have a surf school. I don't know.
Poosh, would you still be doing that telemarketing that you guys were doing?
Dude, I was on the way up, dog. I got promoted.
It's like
Push was in
workaholics.
management, man.
Yeah, I made it. I made it into management after 1 year. No, I mean, I have a degree in psychology, so I initially thought I was going to do something in that field, but I never was really that motivated to go any further with it. I kind of used it as more of a base level, just for general ed. Probably would just be doing something. I mean, hopefully, it would be doing something in the public sector of like helping people. Just like I think that's what my focus and my motivation in life is, just kind of trying to do positive work for anything really. I don't know if I don't know exactly what zone I'd be in, but just maybe social work or something like that.
So this one's kind of dramatic, this next question, but I have to ask it because I love a little drama. This is from, her name is Kaylee Yaley on YouTube. She goes, are any of you all planning on one day quitting the band? Can everyone just say that's a hard no?
I'll start by just saying no. I think we're all pretty committed till the wheels fall off on this thing. And it's like, you know, you kind of reach a point where you are really comfortable doing something that just the thought of going backwards or like having to learn a new trade is very scary. So I know, I'm pretty sure I speak for everyone that we're in it till the wheels fall off.
Let me take this opportunity to let you guys know I'm not leaving Big Island again.
Okay, Joe, this is a good time to bring in Spider, the new keyboard player. Bring him in. Welcome, Spider, to the show.
But does he know our tunes?
Oh, yeah.
Chris EG93 says, why don't you guys do mashups with other bands, much like how Reb and does Tribal Seed, Stick Figure, etc.? Adam, you want to touch base on that?
I think we do, and I think if you're into mashups, then you'll be really stoked on the album Coastin', because we do have a lot of that. I don't know. Maybe Michael, you got an answer for that?
I mean, I guess I don't really understand. Does he mean like guest appearances, or like, are you talking about like on stage mashups? Because we've been doing it pretty solid for the last couple of years with doing a Brodeo. I mean, we've got on stage every night with Stupid and did a Brodeo live. Is that what the question is? Yeah, guests and collabs. Oh, so like collabs. It's just, well, when we started, we had 3 singers, so it was like, okay, we have 3 singers. Like, do we need to add another singer? You know what I mean? It just was like there's already weren't enough songs anyway, and then, you know, the last couple albums we were basically just trying to get them written and get them done, and having MB, you know, added to the band as, you know, another vocalist that could handle some vocal stuff too, you know, that always left that open. And I don't know. I mean, I think we did on songs like Danger, and I think on this new record we have a lot of guests. So I think if you are wanting that, then you'll be pleasantly surprised with Coastin'.
And we'll do one last question. This is from GoBucks1MD3151, and they're asking, Spam or Portage sausage masubis?
Portage.
Dork!
Oh, it's Portuguese. It was a typo. Xavier is like,
Oh my god!
changing it right now.
Was he phonetically spelling it? Is that what it is?
No, it was Portagee. I was like, how the hell do you say that?
Portuguese.
Portuguese. Well, now he just added.
It's not
the
really
S on it,
politically
so.
correct to say Portuguese.
That's
It's
pocho
Portuguese.
sausage, my brother. Pocho sausage.
Yeah.
Joe, which one do you prefer?
Well, spam musubi, but Portuguese sausage for my rice in the morning.
I'll go with the spam musubi all the way.
Anybody else? Well, and Poosh, you don't eat meat anymore, so you're over that.
I don't eat meat, but I would say that Portuguese sausage was my all-time favorite breakfast meat before I stopped eating the pork.
And then we have a couple live stream questions. This is EB wants to know, what do you guys recommend on Netflix during this quarantine time? Joe, you want to start?
Tiger King.
Mine's yeah, you know who it is.
Joe Exotic. What's up?
I have one for you guys, and you'll be really stoked because I just got the alert email. Ozark season 3 just dropped on Netflix. Get after it. If you haven't watched 1 and 2, you're missing out.
Oh, snap.
What else is everybody else watching? MB, other than Joe Exotic?
We've been watching Restaurants on the Edge, which is kind of cool. It's a very limited series, but I like the premise. It's almost kind of like Queer Eye for a restaurant industry, where it's like a team of people that have specialties in each different realm of running a restaurant come in and kind of help struggling restaurants get back on their feet. And there were some really cool stories with the people that own the actual restaurants and their life stories. So it's pretty interesting.
Kason, what are you watching?
I've been liking Narcos Mexico season 2.
Fire.
You can touch up on your Spanish while watching it as well.
I during the leg 1 of Heat Seekers, I literally watched that in my bunk like every chance I got. I really liked that show too.
Poosh, what are you watching right now?
We binge watched a show called Unbelievable last night, which was pretty good. I was kind of falling asleep at the end of it, but we pretty much we've been rocking through like entire seasons of shows in like one day. But yeah, I think as far as Netflix goes, I'd say always the Great British Baking Show is some good light entertainment. I love that show. I think it's like amazing.
Love it.
I just finished I just watched all of Curb. Like, I've just been watching Curb, and
yeah, that's not Netflix though.
Oh no, yeah, you're right. But it's Curb. I'm so sad it's over. But
it's the greatest. It's the greatest.
And then our final question is from Ryan Kincaid Crean. He goes, "What are you guys drinking to get through safer at home? And what time are you all starting?"
Apple cider vinegar.
Ooh. Adam?
I've been definitely on the apple cider vinegar, something I don't normally do, but I think it's kind of important to just keep your immune strong. And I've been really digging the ginger shots, which we used to get on tour as well, the ginger lemon. Alcohol wise, mostly red wine around here. Occasionally mezcal around sunset, just to kind of loosen the cooking atmosphere up.
Poosh?
Just a lot of water, to be honest. Wife is pregnant, so I'm not going to be drinking wine in front of her and getting the stink eye. So it's pretty much just like right now it's a lot of staying hydrated.
MB?
Yeah, I mean, Marina and I polished off like 4 bottles of wine the other night, but that was a rare occasion. She likes the juice. We'll get produce and like make green juice, a lot of sparkling water, a lot of tequila shots here. Not a lot, but you know, a combo of healthy and indulgence.
What about you, Jody?
Coffee with turmeric, black pepper in the morning, and then maybe some wine at night. Tequila if I'm feeling spicy. Some beer. Adam and I'll do FaceTime parties. We'll just have a couple drinks.
There you go.
See you tonight, bud.
See you a little later, friend.
Well, this was amazing, guys. Is there anything that anyone want to add anything or say any last minute shout outs about what's going on or any updates?
No, I'd like to say just shout out to all the people that have been around since Time Bomb's release, and we appreciate that you've stuck with our music and stuck with us through the changes and through the sounds and the lineup changes, and you understand that Iration is a band about making good songs and about making good music and not really sticking with one thing. And we are stoked to have you guys with us. And let's do another 10 years of it. We'll see you at Time Bomb 20 anniversary.
Thank you guys all for listening. Go check out irationmusic.com for all the updates on tours and the new album. Peace.